So this guy, Pedro Pascal, became one of the most successful stars right now in Hollywood. And it all started here in The Mandalorian. Hello, everybody. We're going to be looking over the series The Mandalorian, which has become a big global phenomenon. So much so that next week it's getting its own movie, Mandalorian and Grogu. And it's crazy how well this show has succeeded. It basically levitated Pedro Pascal to being one of the biggest actors right now, which is good. Um, you know, he's a great actor, and now people are basically seeing him as one of the top actors right now. He was in the DCEU, the MCU, and he even have some other independent stuff, Oscar nominated films, Oscar nominated performances, what have you. This guy has been doing a lot in the little that we've known him so far. Even though a lot of people knew him from Game of Thrones, I did not watch Game of Thrones, and I should. I know everybody keeps saying you haven't seen Game of Thrones, but listen, something about the Mandalorian kind of caught my eye. It was like the first thing to get released when Disney Plus got launched, and it basically shows the story of a bunch of Mandalorians um, throughout the galaxy, but they mainly focus on this one, who is played by Pedro Pascal. And throughout the show, he never takes that helmet off, and he is pretty much doing missions of what typical Mandalorians would do. And in the process, he finds his baby, who we don't find out his name until the second season, that it's Grogu. And I just was really satisfied with the chemistry dynamic between a guy who is always wearing a helmet and basically a puppet, and they really went all out, even with the limitations that they gave themselves. Because let's be honest, Star Wars has the money to do anything and everything. The fact that this was directed and written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, two guys who are clearly Star Wars fans, so that people that should be running Star Wars right now, they basically redeemed what the trilogy has been doing, the sequel trilogy, and they just brought in the Mandalorian. They did something cool. This takes place right after Return of the Jedi. Well, not right after, but basically time after Return of the Jedi. So in between that and The Force Awakens, and I just like this world that they gave themselves. We get to actually experience and see characters that we have read about over the past couple years. Quill makes an appearance. The Armorer makes an appearance. IG-11 makes an appearance. This was really cool to see some of these characters that I grew up reading. Ahsoka makes her first ever live action appearance ever, which was a huge bonus for me. I am one of the biggest Ahsoka fans. I loved her in the Clone Wars, and they brought her to life, and they picked the right casting of Rosario Dawson. Unfortunately, I won't be talking about the show because I want to watch season 2, and I'd rather put the two shows together and really review it like that. But I was so happy to see Ahsoka. Matter of fact, Ahsoka was the one who discovered Grogu's name. The first season, we've always called him Baby Yoda. Matter of fact, I bought a toy at Walmart of Grogu, but this was before season 2, so the box said Baby Yoda. I love that they actually put in a lot of effort and detail into some of the stuff that we already know and established. For example, Cobb Vanth, who was played by Timothy Oliphant, is basically a Boba Fett imposter. He stole the suit and plagiarized it as his own, just to kind of basically be like the sheriff in town, essentially. And then the Mandalorian asks for the suit back. They do a mission together, and then in exchange, he gets the suit back. And then that introduces to Boba Fett, the actual Boba Fett, coming back. And it was really cool to have the same actor that played Jango Fett play him. That was a really cool and fun Easter egg. And I know the guy's a lot heavier, so they just went with the fat Boba Fett, which looked a little silly. But I'll say this: they wrote him a lot better than Thor. It was also cool to see other actors and actresses be a part of this, such as Bill Burr, Moff Gideon, Cara Dune, even Sasha Banks from the WWE was there. So it was really cool, just the amount of money that they put in to make this a successful show. And I think that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni should be the ones running Star Wars because this show, at least for the first two seasons, were great. Because for me, the season two finale was the perfect ending for the show. You have, even though it's a bad look, a de-aged Luke Skywalker comes out, takes Grogu, and plans on training him. The Mandalorian and Grogu say goodbye. The Mandalorian takes his helmet off. You get to see Pedro Pascal's face for the first time, and he says goodbye to Grogu. And that was the perfect finale. And then we got the Book of Boba Fett, which was a fine season up until the end, where they just kind of gave up and just said, "Let's bring in the Mandalorian again. Let's bring in Grogu again. Let's put them back together." And if you did not see the Book of Boba Fett, season three makes no sense for you. There's still some cool moments in that, but it's not as fun and entertaining. I basically skipped the rewatch. I just mainly focus on the first two seasons because to me those are the co-essential uh great seasons of the Mandalorian. Season 3 was just like a here you go. And now saying this, I feel like the Mandalorian and Grogu movie is just basically a redemption of what season 3 was. Like you had guys like Lizzo and Jack Black come out just because they were popular and other stuff, and I don't know, they just didn't feel forced, and they just put in less effort in that one. In the first two seasons, you can tell the effort was put to the max, even with their limitations that they gave themselves to make the show as great as possible, with details such as aliens, robots, drones, Tusken Raiders, all kinds of characters, Jawas even. Um, so they definitely put in those little details to make this show great. Carl Weathers even appears in this. Rest in peace to the legend. It was so awesome to see him here. Yeah, those first two seasons, if I could be honest, I would give those two seasons an A plus. Now, the first season was a little bit boring. Season two is where things really picked up, especially when they bring in Boba Fett. There's a lot of other fun missions. There's one that was a little awkward, seeing Baby Yoda, sorry, Grogu, eat a bunch of eggs that are going extinct, which is very awkward to kind of go back and look at it. And it's kind of cool seeing the aftermath of Return of the Jedi. How was life after the Empire was destroyed and the second Death Star was gone? So it was actually kind of cool to see a life after that, and then there's still like believers in that, and then it was cool to see other Mandalorians kind of take initiative and kind of being their own people, no longer working for the Empire. So there was a lot of cool stuff about this. It's just that that third season is so unnecessary. So if I were to grade it, I would have to give um a, an A to both season one and two, but that second season kind of drops it down to a B plus if I'm being honest. So, but the enjoyment is still there. It's still Star Wars. It's still great Star Wars, and it really gave us hope that there is some good in Star Wars if you put in that effort. So, I want to say thank you for to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni for doing this and giving us a good show and good hope for Star Wars yet again. Now, my next review is going to be a movie that spoofs Star Wars as one of the most infamous movies in spoof history. That, of course, is Mel Brooks' Spaceballs. I can't wait for the sequel, but I definitely cannot wait to talk about this movie. I have been a massive Mel Brooks fan. He's the one that inspired me to write comedy, so I cannot wait to talk about this movie. And take care, everybody.